Conference will now be recorded.
Chapter Lamed Zayin, chapter 37, Pasuk Echad. Vayeshev Yaakov. And Yaakov settled Be'eretz Mugurei Aviv, in the land of his father's sojourning, Be'eretz Canaan. So we have two different terms that the pasuk uses over here. The verse uses here. Vayeshev, he settled, and Mugurei, in the place of the travels, the sojournings of his father. Rashi brings the famous teaching of Chazal, of the sages, Bikesh Yaakov Leishev Bishalva. Based on this disparity in the way that we describe it, Yaakov settled in the land of his father's sojourning. Yaakov wanted to settle down, to relax. He had been through a lot in his life already, and now he wanted to settle down. Kafatz alav rogzo shel Yosef. And now the whole angry incident of Yosef jumped on him. And goes on to say, Tzadikim mavakshim leishei b'shalva, the tzadikim, they wanted to settle with serenity, with peacefulness, easygoing. Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God says, Lo dayan, the tzadikim, mash v'tukal lehem le'olam haba. Is it not enough for them, that which they have in the world to come? Eloshim mavakshim leishei b'shalva ba'olam hazeh. They also want to sit so with this serenity, with this tranquility here in this world. And the whole Yosef situation unfolds. So what is wrong with Bikesh Leishev V'Shalva? What's wrong with wanting to settle peacefully? Right? But it seems that this was not, Bakatav Aaron, it seems this was not accepted. It was not encouraged. We say, Bikesh Yaakov Leishev V'Shalva. Yaakov wanted to sit peacefully. And then the whole thing of Yosef comes at him. So what's wrong with the peacefully? So it seems that a parable is given, right? Let's say, right, a person wins this raffle. And the raffle, the prize is that you can go into Macy's, let's say, a big department store. You've got 2 hours there. Whatever you take is yours. Whatever you take out of there is yours to keep. You got 2 hours to get whatever you can over there, right? And imagine the guy walks in and he's, in a frenzy, he runs in and then he sees, the bedding department, the beds. Oh, and he goes and he lies down on the bed, right? And sets a clock for 45 minutes. And you get a good nap, right? 45 minutes later, the alarm goes off and he jumps up and he starts looking around and there, a nice lazy boy chair. Oh God, let me check this out. This is so comfortable. Right, sets his clock for another 45 minutes and takes a nap. And you say, hey, buddy, right, the clock is ticking. You've got a certain amount of time here you've got to do. This world is referred to as the Olam HaAsiyah, the world of doing. And this is a short period of time that a person is granted here in this world, and we need to do as much as we can possibly do. Right, Kathy? We had yesterday in Chovas Halvavos that one of the ways that we see humility is that when it comes to the spiritual matters, we don't say, I'm doing enough. I'm doing enough. Whatever I'm doing, it's plenty. Or whatever will come my way, I'll take advantage if it comes my way. No, we need to be proactive. So we have here at Yaakov's life. Now, last week's Parsha his name was changed to Yisroel, but it wasn't fully changed. The name Yisroel was added. And at times he is Yaakov, and at times he is Yisroel. And the way the Or HaChaim HaKadosh explains it is when he's going through tough times, he's Yaakov. When he's in a state of ascendancy, then he is Yisrael. So what happens over here? Let's go a little bit further. And Vayave Pasuk Gimel Yosef Edibatam Ra'a El Avihem. Okay, Yosef is with his brothers. Anything negative that Yosef sees about his brothers, what does he do? He goes running to his father to tell his father on his brothers about his brothers. Clear immaturity. Right? We talk about emotional maturity, clear immaturity on his part.
I don't look at it that way.
Okay.
I think that he's adamantly involved with following the Torah, and it's very upsetting to him to see his own brothers violating it.
Okay. So Cheryl is pointing out that according to the sages, there were things that he saw the brothers doing wrong, that he went running to father to tell about them. Okay. Now, even according to that interpretation, he was misunderstanding things.
Well,
He was reading it wrong, right? Now, if I see someone doing something wrong, right, then it's important, right? If I think they do something wrong, I could approach them before I go running to the father. If I go running to the rabbi, you might want to get a sense of what's actually happening over there, right? So Yosef's actions over here, right? Rashi says, "Kol ra'a shayaroa ba'achev b'nei Leah hayamagid laviv." Anything bad that he saw, he would quickly go running to the father, right? This was not the way to go. Let's go a little bit further. Let's see what happens, right? His father loved Yosef. Vasalo Ketonet Pasim, page 200, made for him a special coat, a special garment. And this was the garment of leadership. Right? This is what you do now. Keep in mind, Yaakov worked 14 years in order to marry Rachel. He worked 7 years to marry Rachel and married Leah. 7 days later, he married Rachel with understanding that he would work another 7 years. Rachel was his main wife. Yosef, therefore, is his bechor to a certain degree. Incorrectly, Ruvain is the firstborn, but in his mind, Yosef is the bechor, the firstborn that he has from Rachel. And he's showing him this favoritism. The brothers saw that the father loved him more than them, and they despised him, and they cannot speak to him peaceably. Yosef had a dream, and they hated him even more. What was the dream? 11 bushels are all bowing down to my bushel in the middle, right? The brothers said, now, what was Yosef thinking? Here the commentators say Yosef was thinking, realize that I'm the one, right? Don't hate me. Don't despise me, right? From the heavens, I'm supposed to be the leader over here. Again, emotional immaturity. That's not going to work. And the brothers viewed it as he wants to. Hamaloch timloch aleinu. Well, you're going to be the ruler over us? Now, his dream was correct. The bundles bowing down was a need for food that they would all have to come to him. And that we know, of course, is what happens later on. But this is how Yosef took it. He had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. right? And the sun and the moon and 11 stars are bowing down to me. Take a look at Pasuk Yud, verse 10 on page 200. Vayisaper el aviv el achav. He told to his father, to his brothers. Vayigar bo aviv. And his father, English says, scolded him. Right? Ga'ar, Aaron, the Ivrit. Ga'ar is more than a scold. It's more than scold. It's not a shout.
I don't know what shout is.
It's not a yell.
Probably no. It's a reprimand.
Reprimanded him. Good. Vayomer, he said to him, "Ma chalam hazeh shechalamta? What is this dream that you dreamt? Will I and your mother and your brothers bow down to the ground to you? Vayikanu vo'echav. The brothers were jealous. Va'aviv shamar et hadavar. But his father, Shamar, guarded it. Rashi says, Hayamamtin umitzapeh matayavo. So the father, according to Rashi, is feigning this anger. But really, he was hoping, waiting for it to come. Or Chaim says beautifully, Shamar means then to wait expectantly. He says, that's what we say, V'shamru b'nei Yisroel Shabbat. Not just something.
He was waiting for the other brothers.
Waiting for the time that Yosef would be this in this prime position. But Shamar means mamtin umitzapeh matay yavo. Waiting and hoping for this to come. So the Or Chaim HaKadosh says that's an added meaning. We say v'shamru b'nei Yisrael Shabbat, right? Which totally say in Bnei Yisrael should observe, right, the Shabbat. He says shomer means mamtin umitzapeh matayavo. So when it comes to Shabbos, it's supposed to be waiting and hoping. When will Shabbos come already? Okay. Then what happens? The brothers go out, and the father sends Yosef to go find the brothers. And brothers come, Yosef comes, and they decide that they are going to kill him. Okay? The way the Sepharno understands this is that they viewed Yosef as a rodef. A rodef is someone who's trying to kill you. Physically, spiritually, they looked at the family history and they said, let's see, Abraham had Yitzchak and Yishmael. Yishmael was pushed out of the way, and the whole lineage only goes through Yitzchak. Yitzchak had Yaakov and Esav. Esav pushed out of the way, the lineage flows through Yaakov. Yaakov now has all of us children. And here's Yosef trying to turn us into Yishmael, into Esav, trying to get father to curse us. And therefore we need to remove him from the scene. And what do? Well, it's interesting. Take a look at this psukim here. There are two different ways of learning this. Okay. Let's go to page 204. Verse 23. Vayihina was kasher Yosef v'achav. Yosef came to his brothers v'yavshitu et Yosef et kutanto ekaton tapasim asher alav. They pulled off his cloak, according to most commentators, and his cloak of the special cloak, because that's what infuriated them. They took him and they threw him into a pit, and the pit was empty, no water. And they sat lechol lechem. They sat to have a meal, right? And as Forno says, from here we see that they felt they were doing the right thing. They, as a Beit Din, had ruled that he is a rodef. He is trying to get us cursed, killed, and therefore we have to take the initiative. Vayisu einayim, they lifted up their eyes. Vayiru, and they saw, and behold, there was an orchat Yishmaelim ba. There was a whole caravan of Yishmaelites coming, carrying all of these spices to go down to Egypt. Yehuda says to his brothers, 26, what are we going to gain if we're going to kill him and cover his blood? Come, l'chu, listen carefully to the psukim. V'nim karena li'Yishmaelim. Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites. The Adenu al Tihibo. Our hand should not be against him. He's our brother, our flesh. The brothers listened. Pasuk Chavchet. Listen carefully. Vayavru anashim midyanim. So as they're planning to sell him to the Ishmaelites, what happened? Anashim midyanim socharim. They're passed by Midianite men, traders. Vayimshechu vayalu et Yosef min abor. They, underlining the word they, pulled and brought Yosef up from the pit and sold Yosef to the Yishmaelim, and they brought Yosef to Mitzrayim. It's unclear who did the pulling of Yosef out of the pit, who sold Yosef.
You mean, was it the Midianites or the Ishmaelites?
Right.
Okay.
Was it the brothers
Okay.
or was it the Midianites? The brothers had said in verse 26, right? 27, let's sell him to the Yishmaelim. 28, Midianite passers passed by, and they pulled him up and sold him to the Yishmaelim. Rashi learns the brothers pulled him up and sold him to the Yishmaelim. According to that, it's a little bit strange. So what do the Midianim have to do with it? Why are you telling, right? The brothers said in 27, let's sell him to Yishmaelim. Then all of a sudden, Midianite guys passed by, and then the brothers pulled up Yosef and sold him to the Yishmaelim. Right? So what does that have to do with anything? Why are you telling me about these Midianim? Rashi, who learns the brothers sold the Yishmaelim, asks, so why mention the Midianim? He says, oh, because he got sold many times along the way. Let's go further according to Rashi. Vayeshev Reuven el Labor. Reuven came back to the pit, and behold, Yosef's not in the pit. And he tore his garments, and he goes back to his brothers, and he says, the child's not there. What am I going to do now? Now, 1 second. According to Rashi, who sold Yosef to the Ishmaelim? The brothers did, right? So what now is Reuven coming back? Why wasn't Reuven there? Rashi needs to explain, oh no, Reuven wasn't there because either they had this round robin going back to deal with father, so it was his day to go back, or he was doing teshuvah over the whole incident the last week of moving the mattress of Bilhah, right? So it's a little bit strange. Right? Now you're doing that? So that is how Rashi is learning this. Why is Rashi learning this? Well, if you turn to, keep the place here, turn to page 252 for a minute. When Yosef ultimately reveals his identity to the brothers at the end of the whole saga, he says to them, I am Yosef, your brother, asher machartem oti Mitzrayma, that you sold me down to Egypt. So Rashi says, we see clearly later on, Yosef says, you sold me down to Egypt. So who pulled him out of the pit? Who sold him to the Ishmaelites? It had to be Yosef. It had to be the brothers. And then you have to explain, so what do you do with the Midianim? Why are you mentioning the Midianite traveler or traders? And where was Reuven for the sale? That's how Rashi learns.
So maybe that's why they named the province Yehuda. Yehuda and Shomron. Yehuda, right? I mean, to honor Yehuda for saving Yosef. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, Yehuda is actually taken to task for this. Yehuda is taken to task, right? When Yaakov cannot be consoled, then they all turn to Yehuda and say, you were the leader. Had you said, bring the boy back home, he would have listened to you, right? Instead, you said, sell him down to Egypt, and look what that resulted.
There was no food, right?
But there's another way of learning these psukim. Let's look again, page 204. And this is how the Rashbam Rashbam was a grandson of Rashi. Rashbam stays a lot closer to the pshat, to the simple reading of the psukim than his grandfather Rashi did. Rashi always begins with a question based on pshat, the famous "What's bothering Rashi?" But then he goes off into the Medrash world, and the Rashbam writes that he had conversations with his father, with his grandfather Rashi, about his approach, the way he's writing his Perush, and he said that his grandfather said, Rashi said, that if he had the time, he would have written another explanation, another Rashi, being more Peshat based. But let's read it now according to the Rashbam. Verse 26, 27. Let's go, Yehuda says, Salam to Ishmaelit. The Yadeinu al Tibo, and our hand should not be involved in this, in killing him. V'yishmucha, the brothers listened. 28, what happened? V'yavru anashim midyanim, socharim. Now these midyanim socharim passed by. Remember, they sat down and had a meal. Now, chances are they didn't have the meal right next to the pit, listening to Yosef crying out in there. They moved to a more comfortable distance. They see the Ishmaelim coming over there, and they're having the meal, and their plan is to sell him. But what happened instead? 28. Anashim midyanim socharim. Midianite traders passed by. Vayimshichu, and they pulled. Who's they? The Midyanim. Those that we just mentioned. They pulled and brought Yosef out from the pit, and they sold Yosef to the Ishmaelites. And they brought Yosef down to Mitzrayim. Now they're all having their meal. Ruvain, I didn't mention it before, Ruvain said, let's not kill him, let's put him in the pit. Ruvain wanted to save Yosef, but Ruvain was not the strong leader like Yehuda who would get all of them to follow his lead. So therefore he said, well, let's do it like this, throw in the pit, I'll go back and I'll save him afterwards. And then what happens? Pasuk 29 is exactly what he does. Vayeshev Reuven el Abor, he goes back to the pit. V'hinei, behold, Ein Yosef Babor, he's not there. Why is he not there? Because the Midianites had pulled him out and had sold him. Vayikra bigadav, and he tore his garments. He came back to his brothers and said, the child's not there. What will we do? They took the cloak. Morning, Janet. They took the cloak of Yosef. They slaughtered a goat. They dipped it into the blood. They sent that to their father, and they said, Haker now recognize, is this the cloak of your son? He recognized it. He said, that's it. A wild animal has torn him up. Yosef has been torn apart. He tore his garments. He went into mourning, and he was not going to be consoled. Okay? So that's the two ways of learning this sale of Yosef. Rashi, the brothers did it. Rashbam, the brothers did not do it. What will Rashbam do with that pasuk later on when Yosef says, I'm Yosef, Hashem machartem oti? Well, they didn't actually do the selling, but it's because of them that he was sold down to Mitzrayim. That's how Rashbam will deal with that. Now, I'm not going to be here the next few weeks, okay? So I'm traveling with Natalie. We'll be away until January time, okay? So the next few weeks, there's not going to be, all are welcome to get together and learn Chumash together, right? But I will not be spearheading it, okay? So we're going to zoom ahead just a little bit over here. Yosef gets brought down to Mitzrayim, the house of Potiphar. The wife of Potiphar tries to seduce him. He refuses. He is blamed. He then gets sent. But in the house of Potiphar, he's running the house. He gets sent into prison. In the prison, we know he's there, right? And who else is there? The butler the baker. They each have their dreams. He interprets their dreams for them. The butler is reinstated as he described, as he interpreted the dream. The baker is put to death as he interpreted the dream. But the butler does not mention Yosef, to Paro to get him out of there. Then Paro has his dreams, and Yosef is brought out of the prison. Yosef interprets the dreams. Yosef is made the viceroy, second in command of Egypt. Yosef marries Osnat, the daughter of Potipharah, which is the daughter of the woman that he supposedly had tried to violate, right? And by doing that, it was a clear show that that was not what had happened, right? And that had and therefore he was not vindicated, right? But he was no longer accused of that. Okay, vindicated, good, vindicated. And Yosef then is in charge, and then as he interpreted Paro's dreams, there's going to be 7 good years and then 7 famine years. During the 7 good years, he's stocking up. The 7 famine years begin, and the brothers come down to Mitzrayim. And Yosef sees them, recognizes them. They don't recognize him. They bow down to him. And he says, listen, there's another brother, Binyamin. I want to see Binyamin, right? Puts them through heck over there. They come down with Binyamin. Everything seems to be fine. But then on the way back, the goblet is planted in the bags of Binyamin, and they're all brought back, right? They should all be slaves. He says, no, only Binyamin will be the slave. Yehuda steps forward and starts to advocate, our father, don't take this child away from our father, right? He had 2 sons, and if one of them he is presumed dead, if you take this one away, he will die on the spot. Take me instead. I will be your slave instead. Let the lad, Binyamin, go back to his father. And then Yosef reveals his identity. Ani Yosef, I am Yosef, your brother. Is our father still alive, etc., etc. Ha'od avichai, is our father still alive? So the question that many deal with, a very fundamental question, is why didn't Yosef write home? Yosef, your father is mourning. Your father is bereft of you. You're okay. Right? In the house of Potiphar. Write home. You can't at that point. You're second in command of Egypt. Go give your dad a hug. Go home. You know how much your father loved you. Yosef, why are you stonewalling over here?
Ghosting.
And they're ghosting.
Current terminology.
Thank you, Jen. Why are you ghosting your dad over here? And there are 3, we'll call it classic approaches, and then a 4th approach, a more modern, current, right, idea that was put forward. One approach is that Yosef was afraid. If I'm going to reach out to father, reconnect with father, the story is going to get out. And what's father going to do? Be furious, if not curse my brothers. Therefore, Yosef put himself through this difficult, painful isolation in order to protect his brothers from father's curse. Now, that really is fascinating. I think a very important lesson over here. Because the reason the brothers sold him was because they were afraid that he was going to he was trying to get father to curse them. And here he is protecting them. But according to this approach, so this really was Yosef's maturing. And he went from the boy, the lad who would go telling his father everything possible he could see wrong about his brothers. He would go running to father to tell father. He transformed into the person who would do anything and everything to protect his brothers from their father's wrath. That is one of the classic approaches. Morning, Ken. Another classic approach is that Yosef knew that that which they did was a terrible thing. And therefore, he wanted them to do teshuvah. Not for himself, but for them. And therefore, what did he do? Therefore, when the brothers come down, he looks to construct the perfect redo, like Groundhog Day, the perfect redo of his sale, right? Here he is, Yosef, the favored son of Yaakov, because he is the son of the favored wife, Rachel, and the brothers are all jealous and they sold him down to Egypt. Therefore, he wants to see right now, let's give the brothers the opportunity to see where they are now. So what does he do? He needs to construct the same exact scenario. So what does he say? Bring down Benjamin. Bring down Binyamin. Because Binyamin is the lone remaining child of Rachel. So if Yaakov had a special love for Yosef, now with Yosef's presumed death or Yosef's absence, all of his affection and love is going to be focused on Binyamin. So therefore, I want Binyamin to come down. Binyamin comes down. Beautiful. Now the stage is set. He plants the goblet in Binyamin's bag. Now, what is the rule? What is the law for that? You're stealing from the king or the viceroy, you become the slave to the viceroy. So now all of a sudden, he is serving them the whole Yosef sale again on a silver platter. You don't have to sell Binyamin. His own actions, his stealing of the goblet, his own actions have caused him to be sold. Great. I'm doing the work for you. I'm doing the job for you. Let's see how you guys are going to react. And how does Yehuda react? Wow. Yehuda says, right? Let's take a look at this for a moment. This is Vayigash. Yehuda says to them, page 250, right? Verse 26, or verse 22, the youth cannot leave his father. If he leave his father, he will die, right? 26, we said to our father, we cannot go down. Only the youngest brother is with us. We'll go down. We cannot see the man's face. Our youngest brother is not with us. Then your servant, my father, said to us, verse 27, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons. Wow. This is Yehuda, one of the 12 sons, quoting his father as saying, our father said, my wife bore me 2 sons. Who is my wife in this? Rachel, not Yehuda, the one who's speaking, not his mother. 2 sons. The other 10, myself including the 10, not important. One has left me, and I presume the last even sorely turned to pieces. I've not seen him since. You take this one too from my presence, disaster befall him. You'll bring down my old age to my grave. That's what's going to happen if Binyamin doesn't come back. And therefore Yehuda continues, verse 30. And now, if I come to you, so my father, you're not with us, right? When he sees the youth is missing, verse 31, page 253, he will die, right? And therefore, 33, now therefore, please take your servant. I'll remain instead of the youth as a servant to you, and let the youth go with his brothers. Wow. So what's Yehuda saying? It's all about Binyamin. If we go back without Binyamin, our father's going to die. We go back without me, he'll be sad. He'll live. Let me stay in place. Oh, wow. Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Now we see the brothers are willing to accept that Rachel had a special status, understand, if not agree with, but understand that Yosef and Yamin hold a special place in Father's eyes. The teshuvah is complete, and he says to them, Ani Yosef. I'm Yosef. That's a second way of understanding why Yosef didn't write home. Yeah.
I would suggest, though, that the teshuva only occurred because they all saw Yaakov's distress.
Okay. Whatever it
I
is.
mean,
Fair
what
enough.
what they inflicted upon another.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But that is the mitzias. That is the facts. And in that, right, we can only, we can't say this person did a great tshuva. Yeah, but if this and that wouldn't have happened, right? We deal with the mitzias, with the reality. Yeah.
I think if we were to rank like the top 10 narratives in the Torah, this is number one.
This is up there.
It's number one for me.
Ramban has a third approach. Ramban's approach is a very interesting approach that others say, well, why would we say that's the case? Ramban understands as follows. He had two dreams. First dream, we said, 11 sheaves bowing down to him. Second dream was father, sun, moon, 11 stars. First dream was all the brothers bowing down. Second dream is father, mother, all brothers bowing down. Yosef understood that these were dreams, and this is where other commentators have an issue with Ramban. Yosef understood these are dreams that he needs to make sure that they come about in the proper order. So the brothers first come down to Yosef, and they bow down. Rashi there says, and he saw that the dream was fulfilled. Ramban says, on the contrary, had he seen that the dream was fulfilled, he should have said on the Yosef and given them a hug. On the contrary, he knew the dream was not fulfilled because he needed to have 11 bowing down. There were 11 sheaves, and there's only 10. And he could not, all along, Ramban says, write home, because had he written home, his father would have come with the brothers, and they would all have bowed down to him as the viceroy of Egypt. And dream 2 was fulfilled before dream 1. And it's got to be in order. And therefore, he can't reveal his identity all along. And he can't reveal his identity at this point. What does he need to do? Get Binyamin down. And that's what the whole setup of your spies until Binyamin comes. Then Binyamin comes, according to Ramban. Great. First dream fulfilled. So why doesn't he say, Ani Yosef, I'm Yosef at that point? Why doesn't he reveal his identity at that point? And then father would come down and everyone would bow down. He was afraid. He's afraid if he says, Ani Yosef, then on the way back, what are they going to do to Binyamin? What are they going to do to Binyamin on the way back? What's going to happen over there? Right? They're going to be afraid for their own lives, for the father cursing them. Right? Yosef's alive. Oh no. Right? And therefore, what will they have to do? They'll have to dispose of Binyamin on the way back. Therefore, he wants to keep Binyamin safely under his control.
I don't understand that logic. I don't get that one logically tells the other. There seems to be.
Okay, so let me try again. He was afraid. Had he said Ani Yosef at that point, the brothers had wanted to kill him, decided not to kill him. The brothers had sold him. right? Now, if they're going to go back and say Yosef's alive, right? And so Binyamin, right, is the link, right? He was afraid they'll be afraid to go back and say Yosef's alive because father is going to find out all that happened, right? So right? How can they quell this whole problem? Get rid of Binyamin.
How would that do anything? Benjamin had nothing to do with it.
If they get rid of Binyamin, they go back home and father never
There's
knows.
no witness.
There's no witness besides the 10 who were involved in the sale. Right? They get rid of Binyamin, they go back with their food and never tell father.
They know Benjamin will kill Yosef.
Binyamin will kill Yosef.
No, they know that the loss of Benjamin will
kill Yaakov.
Yes.
Okay, so Yosef doesn't know that. Yosef doesn't know about all that went on in terms of Binyamin coming. He only finds that out afterwards. He doesn't know what went on. As far as he knows, they went back home.
So he's
right?
projecting all this in his mind.
Correct. Right? Now, now everyone is safe. Ani Yosef, he can reveal his identity. That is the way Ramban.
The logic now parses.
Didn't they say before where we are right now, don't make us bring Binyamin? Didn't the brothers say that to
Yes.
Yosef?
Yes. So
It'll kill Yaakov.
Yes.
So you can't. turn
Yes
around
and no.
Say Yaakov did, or Yosef didn't.
Well,
That's kind
let
of
me
what
ask.
the logic
Let me ask you
parses.
another question. He says to them, "Ani Yosef, I'm Yosef. Is my father still alive?" What do you mean? We've been talking to you about our father, the first trip, this trip, nonstop talking about father. Why are you asking my father still alive? So the commentators, some Mepharshim explain that Yosef was concerned they were just using the father card, as we would say, in order to arouse his compassion, his pity, and to not make them do all these things. So Yosef, right, why is he asking his father still alive? We've been talking to your father the whole time. So he was concerned, according to this approach, that was they were playing the father card.
So that they might have even been lying about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure he didn't trust them either because
Yeah.
we're capable of doing. It's like, how can I trust
Yeah.
you?
And getting back to the original analogy of Ishmael being disposed and Esau being disposed, in all of those cases they were sent away. They weren't killed. So the brothers thinking he's a rodef, you would still find a way to
send them away. So they viewed a spiritual killing as worse than a physical killing, right? Us, right? Us being, right? The Gemara talks about this. The Gemara has a Mishnah. If returning a lost object, if your father has a lost object and your Rebbe has a lost object, which one should you tend to? And the Gemara says you should tend to, unless your father has taught you Torah, you should tend to your Rebbe's lost object. Because one brought you into the physical world, the other one's bring you into the eternal spiritual world. So that was their concern according to that Sephar. But there's another approach over here, which I think is a very beautiful and very powerful approach. We're asking, why didn't Yosef write home? Why didn't he? Right? So we know what's going on. And this is a very important lesson. Very often we think we know what's going on in other people's minds, but we don't know what's going on. We know that the brothers came back with a bloody coat and showed it to father, to Yaakov. And Yaakov broke down crying. And Yaakov went into mourning. And Yaakov never stopped mourning. We know all of that. Yosef has no idea about this. Yosef has right, father sent me out here to check on the brothers. Brothers throw me into a pit. And then they sell me or they allow me to be sold, whatever it is. I'm on my way down to Egypt. Why did Father send me here in the first place? Was Father in on this? That I'm causing so much trouble over here? Well, let's see. Let's see the search parties that Father's going to send out to try to find me. And what is there? Crickets. Nothing. He doesn't know the father is sewn a bloody coat. He doesn't know his father presumes him dead. And he starts to go over in his mind. What happened right before Father sent me down to check on the brothers? I told him the dream. Vayigar bo aviv. And what did Father do? He scolded, perhaps yelled, reprimanded, right? Right? Are we all going to go bow down? Father looked at me as causing trouble in the family, bringing turmoil, bringing drama, bringing animosity, bringing jealousy into the family. And then he sends me down over here. See, he thinks I should go back, right? You know, lahavdil, a child who's abused, a child who's abused, he's going to go running back home? And then look what happens. Turn to page 230. Here he is now. He's already in charge of Egypt. And he gets married. Pasuk Nun, verse 50 on page 230, 231. Ulu Yosef Yulad Shnei Banim. Yosef had two sons. The Terem Tavo, before the arrival of the Shnat Harav of the famine years, who were born to him by Asnat, Ba Potiphera, the Kohen of On. Vayikra, first pasuk 90 of 51, Nun Aleph. He named his Bechor Menashe. Why did he name him Menashe? Ki nashani elokim to call him a leave it called Beit Avi. God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's household. Why is Menashe? I could finally leave all of that behind. I'm starting my own family now. Enough of all of that dysfunction that I came from. Then he had another son. And the name of the second he called Ephraim, 52. God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering. It's a brave new world. It's a whole new start. I can leave everything behind. The brothers come. He's not going to say who he is. They'll try to kill him again. He's not going home to father. Right? He wants to see Binyamin. Binyamin is his one full brother who was not involved in that. And then he wants to keep Binyamin with him for safekeeping, to have Binyamin. Who knows? If they were this abusive to me, who knows what Binyamin is enduring in that household? Let me keep Binyamin. And then we go to Vayigash. And now Yehuda is speaking to him. Again, back to 251. Now all of us, right? So what does he say? Right? Let's go to 19. My Lord Esther, have you a father or brother? We said we have an old father, a young child, and his brother is dead. He left alone. And Yosef thinking, yeah, his brother is dead. Yeah. Little do you know, I'm here listening to you. Right? And then he said, your servants, bring him down. I'll set my eye on him. He cannot leave his father. Leave his father, he'll die. Right? And it was. Now, 24. When we went up to your servant father, told him my Lord's words. Our father said, go back, buy some food. 26. We cannot go down. Only if our youngest brother is with us, then we'll go down. We cannot see out of this man's face without the youngest brother. Then your servant, 27, said to us, you know, my wife bore me two sons. 28. One has left me, and I presumed, alas, he has surely been torn to pieces. I have not seen him since. All of a sudden, Yosef realized, oh, father was not in on this. Why didn't the search party come out? I was presumed dead. He has been torn to pieces. That's why he didn't come after me. And you take this one too, right? And disaster for him, you will have brought down my old age and evil to the grave. This is the first time Yosef hears what happened, understands Now it all makes sense. Father was not rejecting me. What does he say then? Ani Yosef, ha'od avi chai. I'm Yosef. Is my father still alive? I knew your father's been alive. You haven't stopped talking about your father all along. But I had presumed he no longer views himself as being my father. I thought that he was in on it. I thought that he was angry at me, and that's why he sent me. And he didn't care that I was gone, and that he knew that I was down here in Egypt, and he couldn't care less. Ha'od avi chai. Is my father still alive? And that's why Yosef didn't write home according to this fourth approach, right? And I think, Dov, I'll give you the floor in a moment. So often we think people know how we feel. We think people know what we think,
I'm not a mind
right?
reader.
Well, but we often assume, right? One of the things that I always say before we say Yizker, and people, I'm sending people out who are not saying Yizker, I say, if you're not saying Yizker for anyone, that means that the very special people in your life are still with you. Make sure they know how special they are in your life. Don't assume they know. You've got to tell them. Make sure they know. And over here, right, we saw Yaakov, Vayigarbo, he reprimanded, he rebuked, he scolded him. And in his heart, he was mamtin mitzapeh. In his heart, he was saying, yes, when will this happen? But Yosef was not aware of that. Make sure people know the way you feel. Yes, Dov.
Did Yosef have plastic surgery? How come they don't recognize him?
That's I'll share something very personal with you guys. I'll share something very personal with you guys. That's a question that always bothers me. I mean, someone walks into shul, I might not have seen this person in 20 years, right? But I know that guy. I don't remember the name, right? I don't know from where, but I know that person. Sometimes I'll see someone say, oh, I said, oh, no, I don't know this guy. But the way he smiled reminds me of this person. The way he walks reminds me of that. The way he sounds reminds me of that person. Here they were with Yosef for 17 years. For 17 years, they were with Yosef. And there's no ding, right? They hear him, they see him. So he didn't have a beard then, now he's got a beard. That's not going to do it. No. The way he talks, the way he moves, everything about a person. So I'll tell you a very painful episode in my life which gave me an understanding in this. My sister, Allah Shalom, passed away when she was 13. I was 12, and it was June. And my brother Joshua Shalom and I was sleeping down in the basement, right? And we lived in New York. We didn't have air conditioning in our rooms. My parents had the dining room had. The girls had, the boys didn't have air conditioning, right? So came summertime, we would sleep down in the basement. It was nice and cool. Then we go off to camp. We're sleeping downstairs in the basement. It's June, middle of June. No one's waking us up to go to school. I hear voices upstairs. My cousin, the rabbi, is in the house at 7 o'clock on a weekday morning. My uncle is in the house 7 o'clock on a weekday morning, right? It should have been, and we knew, well, it should have been painfully obvious to us that our sister passed away that night. And that's what was going on in the house. No, we're not going to school that day. And that's why all the relatives are gathering in the house. In my mind, it was a snow day. It was a snow day. June, with my cousin, the rabbi, my uncle there in the house, coming from the Bronx. It was a snow day. Until my father came down and said, boys, last night Debbie passed And then the dam broke. Until then, the mind is incredible. The mind had this steel door shut that would not allow my conscious mind to entertain that was it. That's how I understand the answer to your question, though. The brothers could not, would not entertain the thought that they were so terribly wrong. And this Yosef's dreams were all being fulfilled. They were not his aspirations of grandeur, but they were God-given descriptions of what is going to happen. Their minds shut the door, and they could not and would not entertain that possibility. That's the only approach that makes sense to me, because I lived it. And I know the most obvious thing, the mind will not let it in. If the mind does not want, if it's too painful to entertain, right? I mean, it amazes me. This whole subconscious, like, what is going on with my conscious mind? I have dreams, I can't remember them. Why can't I remember them? Like, why is my mind playing? My mind's playing games with me. My subconscious mind knows exactly what I dreamt. All these thoughts, right? But there's this separation, this chatzitza, this buffer, this disconnect. Well, it's not a disconnect. It's a steel door that it doesn't allow this crossing to go through. Right? It's there, but it's not allowed through. To me, right? And to me, that's part of the physical and the spiritual of who and what we are. But that's how I understand your question.
Yeah, it does. I mean, to me, it just makes perfect sense that the most sacred territory that we have as Jews, where the Beit HaMikdash is, the surrounding is called Yehuda.
Okay,
It makes
I hear
perfect
that.
sense to me.
I hear that.
Now, okay, I get the idea, Yehud, right? The Jews, Yid, and all that. But I think in some way, shape, or form,
Yeah,
it's to
Yeah.
honor Yehuda.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he saved.
we're called Yehudim.
Yeah.
We're called Yehudim. Janet.
So it also, there's still an inconsistency in that by now Benjamin was an adult and he could have a say of whether he was, no, my Lord, your servant is not, I didn't steal this and I don't want to stay. I want to go back to my father and honor him.
It was found in your bags.
I understand, but
Right? You remember Shawshank? Everyone here is innocent. Right? Everyone here is innocent. Right?
As you say,
As an adult, no, it was found in my bags, but I didn't steal it. I want to go home. Very nice. Duly noted. Into the dungeon.
Of protecting Benjamin, if Benjamin says he's perfectly fine and protests, it certainly seems that would poke a hole in what
yeah. When you talk to when social services talks to abused children, what do they always say?
It's not
I'm
your fault.
fine.
It's not
I'm
your
fine. Right? Because they don't, right? The unknown is worse, the devil you know, the devil you don't. Yeah. Okay, my friends, again, I'm going to be away. Yes, Judy.
Sorry. So I have a couple of questions. One is about the second dream not being fulfilled, or like waiting until the second dream is fulfilled. But the second dream includes supposedly the mother who's
So
that's not being fulfilled.
Yes.
Why couldn't the dream have just been the sun and the stars or something? And
Yeah,
why does
yeah.
it
So
specify?
the mother is Bilhah who raised him. Right? Remember, Rachel died at childbirth of Binyamin. So Bilhah is the one who raised. So the mother, the moon in the dream is not the biological mother, but the mother who raised him.
And she went down.
They all went down. They all came down to Egypt.
Okay.
Leah as well.
And then the other question is, so, first of all, like, do we specifically know that Binyamin wasn't involved in anything? Are we just kind of assuming that because he was younger, or?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
on page 237, in the commentary, like number 27, it says, like below the line,
Mm-hmm.
on the right-hand column, for the end of when he talks about
Which-
he says, Levi was the most guilty for the sale.
Yeah.
So I don't think I even saw Levi's name.
Yeah. So there are no names mentioned, but the pasuk says one man said to his brother, right? Here comes the dreamer. Let's see what will be of his dreams. So who's doing the speaking? So we go through a process of elimination, right? Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, who are the sons of the maidservants, so to speak, they're not speaking up, right, about to their big brothers about one of the sons, what to do one of the sons of one of the imahot. Okay, so who does that leave?
Just because they're not like the name.
They are subordinate. Okay, then so who does that leave? Ruvain. Well, we see Ruvain's trying to say Ruvain's out, right? And then Yehuda has his own, right, way of dealing with it, right? Shimon, Levi, Yisachar, Zvulun, again, the younger brothers are not going to be speaking up to the older brothers. So that's how, when it says Ish El Achiv, right, we learn out that it's Shimon and Levi, and later on, when Yaakov's giving the brachot to Shimon, he speaks about his well, no, something else. That was something else. My mistake. This was Shimon and Levi. I'm sorry.
Is there a way of specifying Levi over Shimon?
So Ish Al Achiv, meaning one to his brother. We don't know which one said to which one, but it's those two who were conspiring. That's what we say.
And I guess
And this is a very, very interesting thing over here. This is my cousin Gedalia Ciner that has a beautiful shot. When he sends them back home to get Binyamin, he keeps one of them locked up before their eyes, and then afterwards just lets him be. Who's that? Shimon. Why Shimon? Right? Because he was the one who had thrown Joseph into the well. Right? The dreamer is coming. Right? Or separate Shimon and Levi. My cousin has a very beautiful shot in this, and he said Yosef knew that, okay, this is the start of the story of how father might find out, right? When he finds out, right, I can hear my father saying, which of you boys had this cockamamie idea, right? So word's going to come out that it was Shimon and Levi. So what did he want to do? He wanted to increase the love that Yaakov felt for Shimon by Shimon being held captive there in Egypt. And in fact, when they're arguing, where they're trying to get father to send Binyamin back, what does he say? Yosef's gone. Shimon's gone. Now you want to take Binyamin? So all of a sudden, Shimon became sandwiched between Yosef and Binyamin. Mission accomplished. That's exactly what Yosef wanted. That the love Yaakov had for Shimon would be increased, that if and when he might find out Shimon's active role in the sale, then Shimon will be spared wrath because father felt this special connection to him. It's a beautiful shot.
Also, there's a precedent for that behavior in that Shimon and Levi were the main ones who attacked Shechem.
Right. That's correct.
So then you see that one, and then you might, as you say, jump to conclusions and presume.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that Yaakov
Rashi says that he wanted to break up those two, since they're the ones who had attacked Shechem. He wanted to decouple the dynamic duo over there. Yes, sure.
I was reading something where, like the sages were in Greece or Rome, and they were accused of selling Yosef for silver shekels. And then they and they accused them
Yeah.
for that.
So on Tisha B'Av and on Yom Kippur, we read about the 10 Asara Haruge Malchus, the 10 sages who were killed by the Romans over different periods. Yeah, it wasn't all right. The way we read it, right,
Yeah,
but
it
right,
sounds like it was all at once.
was not all at once. And yes, this was a decree against Klal Yisrael because of the sale of Yosef.
Didn't the sages have something to say about this? Didn't they realize?
So
that
according
this
to
was-
the way the Medrash goes,
Give us
one of
time.
them went up, right? Give us time. They went up to the heavens to find out, is this the decree that needs to go through? And they were told yes, and they accepted it upon themselves. The epitome of Al Kiddush Hashem. Yes, Dov.
Is it possible that Binyamin was in completely with Yosef in the ruse of when they find the thing in his thing, whatever? I think he was, because he knows it's Yosef.
Look, anything is a possibility. I've never heard that before. Just now, Dov, when you presented that. So I've never heard that.
Dov was a trailblazer.
That
How else would it?
Dov was a
would it have gotten in
trailblazer.
there, right?
I like it.
How else would it have gotten in there? Who would have put it there?
No, the pasuk says Yosef had one of his attendants.
Oh, what it was.
As they packed the bag with all the provisions, he told them, put the goblet in
Put
there.
it in.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Binyamin says, let's do this.
That's
And guess what? Binyamin.
That's conjecture, though.
The area of Binyamin is.
I'm not jumping to ascribe to that.
Safe journeys.
Thank you very much. Okay, so
And it's in
I'm
Yehuda.
leaving next week, Tuesday morning.
Good, so you'll be there for some of Hanukkah.
Yes.
So when
Yes.
Navi comes.
We're going to spend some time in Florida with family there, Navi's
Where
parents.
was-
And also my
where
late
was Benjamin's
brother
territory?
has twin grandsons
Where was
who are getting bar
Benjamin's
mitzvah
territory?
the
Oh,
last
then
Shabbos
the
in
next children.
December.
The last time you
So-
spoke it, the older ones.
Yeah, well, this is two daughters. This is the verse of one of the daughters, and this is cousins, and this is the other daughter. And her,
So you're speaking again?
They asked me to, yeah.
This is your location. Number two, this is your.
Yeah. So we'll be in Baltimore, get to see Devorah and Eliezer. So
That's why.
all good things. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem.
That's why
Baruch
they
Hashem.
sealed it.
It's gonna.
Okay.
it's opening.
Ivan.
That's a famous Midrash too. Yashikoa.
Baruch Tia. Thank you.
So this